Yeah, there's no doubt that there's been a conditioning in the last 10 to 12 years of buy the dip, and that's really the Fed's got your back kind of narrative, which if we're to believe anything that's been said by the Fed in the last few years, and according to your kind of main scenario here, this is not going to happen. And so buy the dip is going to get you fired as an advisor or broke as an investor. You mentioned something, I think I saw over Twitter. You said that the 60-40 portfolio is going to become the new 60-30-10. What is 10 in your asset allocation?
Well, so the 10 would be, well, one, let me start by saying we don't manage assets on a 60-40 basis or even a 60-30-10 basis. I'm more making a broader comment about the kind of the investment advisor industry. But the 10 very clearly has to be, sort of alternatives, physical and digital commodities, things like, Bitcoin, et cetera, real estate. You pull up a chart of, asset class performance in the 70s, and it's pretty clear where you should have been allocated. I mean, it's, things like gold, did really well as well back in that duration. Now, this is not the 70s. This is not the 70s, but the reason I'm making these comments is because, we're coming from a very kind of asymmetric point, both in terms of the price of the US dollar and in terms of sort of, the relative allocation across, kind of the mean investor balance sheet with respect to, things that tend to be positively correlated with dollar strength. Everyone's got sort of a lot of bonds in their portfolio. They've got a lot of, we can see this in our data that we track from a balance sheet perspective. People they're chock full of bonds. They're chock full of US over instead of international and emerging markets. And they're chock full of mega caps instead of small caps. They're chock full of growth instead of value. All those positions are wrong on a structural basis in a regime where there's, 50% more inflation, and the Fed is largely going to, in our opinion, they're going to be forced to acquiesce to it. Otherwise, they're going to have to deal with a lot of, much more sort of what I would consider to be aggressive political consequences for trying to get to 2. I don't think they're going to have the political cover to go from 3 to 2. I think it's going to stop. I think that the Paul Volcker, the kind of the conjuring of the image of the ghost of Paul Volcker, I think that stops. That's done when the unemployment rates. The difference is going from 3.5 on the U3 to 5, as opposed to going from 5 to 7 or 8. That Paul Volcker crap stops real quickly.
So,
but again, by the way, just one quick before we move on, we're not there yet. Yeah. Everyone's like, the discussion amongst investors is about Fed pivot, win this, win that. We have a lot of slowing to do left ahead of us.
It's a lot of hope. It's hopium. Let's get the pivot. Let's get the bounce back. Let's get the V bottom again. Oh, we've done the correction. Let's get back.
Close to a recession. Why the hell are these people pivot?
Agreed.
Yeah.